Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, David and Larry, for that nice introduction. And it is Campfire Talk time with Mr. Larry Weissoon. This is the 18th year that we are embarking on. Thanks for being here, Larry.
Oh, what a pleasure. I'll tell you what, it slipped by so quickly. Luke, I have to tell everybody that the DSC convention, of course, it was just out of this world down in Atlanta, Georgia. If anybody missed it, and I'm sure that there are a few that did, but if you missed it, you really need to plan on being there next year. We're going to be back at the World Congress Center probably about the same time. I hadn't even looked at the dates, but going to be very, very close to the dates that we just had this one. And look forward to seeing everybody there and appreciate everybody that came out. While I was there, I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time at the Hornady guys. They of course have a booth there and huge supporters of DSC as well too. And got to visit with Neil Davies and a bunch of the other guys and talk about some of the products that they have out and some of the things they're kind of planning down the way. And then of course Stealth Vision was there too, and of course you and I use Stealth Vision scopes and we got to spend some time with those guys in the booth, and they've got some exciting news coming up that I'm sure we'll be talking about here before too very long with a really fantastic giveaway program that they got where there's a chance to go on an unbelievable type hunt. VINEYARDMAX, we're getting ready to go on a deer hunt here very quickly, and we've had our guys put out VINEYARDMAX for us over there, and you and I are going to be hunting you're going to be hunting probably with a muzzleloader a little bit, and I'm going to be hunting with a Mossberg rifle, but also I'm going to take some of my handguns. We've got a bunch of does that we're going to have to take on one of the hunts, and so I'm going to be using that one of those Taurus Raging Hunter guns. So a lot of good fun, great fun coming up here very shortly.
I'm looking forward to it. We've I don't know, this fall to me, it was most definitely where I live here in Texas and Texas and Oklahoma, where only places I've hunted this year, but for deer. But it's been warmer than normal, and I tell you, I'm an old bow hunter. I still bow hunt some, not nearly as much as I used to, but I still bow hunt, and I'm used to hunting in warmer weather, but when rifle season comes along, it's supposed to be cool and chilly. Well, early on it wasn't, but I'll be honest, Larry, I've got more fired up about the hunts that are coming up than I was back when it was warm, because it finally cooled down here. You know, I live in Kaufman County, kind of the northeastern quadrant of the state, if you will. And, it's nice and chilly and like it's supposed to be right now. We're going to be, 3 days from now, I'm going to join you over at our friend the Cottons, and they're about 25 miles from me in Kaufman County here. And there's some the bottom land, the Becker Bottoms that they own land in and all is just great. They sent me some pictures. Who knows? You can't. I've learned a long time ago, don't script a deer hunt till after it's done, but they sent me some pictures of some we could call them management deer, whatever. They just big old bucks with not big old antlers, you know. They one of them was a 6-point and big old fork horn, and who knows what's going to come out when you're hunting. I mean, I was talking to David Cotton. He said one of these bucks he hadn't seen, it just showed up. But now they're coming to those food plots, and they're coming to the feeders right now. So I ought to be able to see more deer, you know, on this next hunt.
I think so. when I was there the last time, I left a bunch of VINEYARDMAX. So I know that they're putting out a bunch of that. And then, of course, they do some supplemental feeding, if you will, if you want to call it that, with cottonseed, which is a great supplemental feed kind of thing. And it is truly a supplement. But they've also been putting out some rice bran. Now, rice bran is very, very high in energy, and that is so very important for those deer from a health perspective right now. Those fats and carbohydrates, particularly as we're getting finally some cooler weather, and to get those does back to where they've been nursing, they've now been bred, so they're trying to produce fetuses and produce fawns, and those bucks before too very long will be dropping antlers, and really the same day that they drop them, that new antler will starting to form, kind of grow over the top of where that antler came off. And that, even though there's protein and all those other things are really important, that energy this time of the year is extremely important. So I applaud them for what they're doing on that property. There are some bucks. You mentioned several of the bucks. Last time I was there, David showed me a picture or two of some bucks that he had seen in September. And they were not seen by hunters, not seen by cameras or anything else, that are just now starting to show up again. And with this cooler weather, finally having a frost, their range conditions from a green perspective are so very good. But this frost that they've had and the cold weather that we're having and had now is really kind of knocked some of that stuff back. So it's really pushing those deer onto to the turnips and triticale and other things that they have planted there in the food plots. And I have to tell you, I know you like turnips. And I was talking with Edgar the other day, and he goes, "Man, have I got some turnips for Luke this year?" He said, "You can't believe how green they were and how big some of these turnips are." He said, "Whenever you guys come down," he said, "we're going to have us some turnips." So
yeah, boy.
I got a feeling we're going to be able to build a big old pot of turnips.
I have a lot of fun kidding those guys, and they kidding me about turnips. But yeah, Edgar, he said he picked a big mess. He said, "Luke, you've never seen the turnips like we've got this year." I said, "Well, we may have to run the deer out of the food plot for me to get in there, But that's right. And so, what I'm calling the official opener, the second opener, is starting, as far as I'm concerned, on deer. So I've got 2 hunts that I'm really, really, if this is the only time I hunted at all, well, I thoroughly had a great time up there with Dusty Vickery and you and everybody up at the Choctaw Hunting Lodge, and took a big old heavy, one of the largest does that I've taken in this part of the country in years. It was a big, healthy, full-grown doe, and some of the best venison, man. I went ahead and I've got to the point, I'll still cut up some of the meat, but I took this one to Kuby's and got some of those smoked fajita links made.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're going to be, on upcoming hunts, we're going to be eating good. I promise you that. But, so, yeah, this hunt coming up is in about 3 days. We're going to be together up there hunting. And then one that I look forward to is out in West Texas. Last year you invited me and Jeff Rice out there, our friend that puts together our weekly TV show called A Sportsman's Life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, on Carbon TV, and it's on YouTube also, A Sportsman's Life. So we filmed out there. I used my CVA muzzleloader last year, and we got some good footage of that, me hunting with that,
Yes, sir.
And this year, that's what I'm going to be taking back out there, the 50 caliber. It's the CVA Optima muzzleloader, and I've got that thing, got a really good scope on it this year, and it's shooting good. So I'm fired up about that. And to me, a deer hunt, I want us to cook some venison. Larry, a lot of people, they're kind of hesitant to cook, venison that's right on a hunt, to take the time to save the back straps, to clean them up and take the time to cook them. But I'll take care of that and pull some back straps, and you've got that campfire pit out there at that
Oh,
ranch.
yes, sir.
And get us some good mesquite coals going. I tell you, I like to take, I don't care if it's frozen backstrap from a year ago or just backstrap. It's good meat. And I like to take a cast iron skillet over the fire, and then first off, though, I'll season that. Garlic powder, salt, and pepper will get it done. Cavender's or one of those get it done even better. Whatever. Season it like you want to. And then put it over that fire and sear it on both sides, you know. And a venison better not have any fat, any venison, deer fat on it. You want to trim all that. You don't want that. So by nature, though, it's going to be dry. It's going to dry out quick over a hot fire. So that's why a lot of people, I think, talk about eating venison that's rare or medium rare. That's great if they like it that way, but I don't. So what I do, and this is good eating, I'll tell you. Go ahead and put it over that fire. It'll have a little mesquite wood flavor to it, the smoke over those coals even. Put your I'll have a cast iron skillet there with a stick of butter in it. And in that butter, I'll have about 8 or 10 cloves of garlic crushed up. And I'll have, some jalapeno mixed in there with that. That's going to give it that flavor of all of the butter and all that. And then when those steaks are, some people would eat them right like that, but, you know, I don't. I take them off that fire and slap them in that cast iron skillet with that butter. Then if you want a medium rare, well, just let all that butter and garlic and all that season them just a little bit and then pull it off. It's okay, but I don't. I'll go ahead and leave them in there until they're not, till they're well done. I guess that would be the term, till they're well done. And we're going to have some of that. I'll personally jerk the back straps out and take care of all that. So, that's a plan I think we need to make happen,
I think that's an excellent plan, Michael.
That would be good. That steak like that is so good, though.
Oh, my gosh, it really is. I've done it very, very similar to that in years past, and you're right. And I think maybe they're just to be on the safe side, we may even do that the first evening. If we don't take a doe that first evening or a deer that first evening, I think there may be some backstrap I've got there in the freezer that I left from the last year when I was there. So we'll be well fixed with that, and that's going to be a fun hunt. Like I said, you guys will come in, and I will have VINEYARDMAX scattered all over the ranch. And what we learned last year is we have feeders with deer stands, but for the most part, those bucks, we're going to be there when bucks are still dominant, and so they'll take over those feeders, and those does very seldom get to come to those feeders because they don't want to be harassed by them. So I will have some VINEYARDMAX put out selectively quite a distance away from the feeder. So if those come in, there won't be that many bucks there that they can't find a place to get something to eat, and we'll be able to take those does we got a pile I've got to take while we're out there that's too. So
music to my ears.
Bring enough powder and bring enough bullets as well, and primers or whatever you're
I
using.
won't forget a thing. I won't. Well, Larry, thank you so much for our first, our second show, I guess, of the new year, being with us. Good luck on your hunts, and I'll see you in about 3 days,
I cannot wait, Luke. It's going to be fun.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to introduce you to VINEYARDMAX. Now, this is an awesome deer attractant, a food attractant, that's made with hammer-milled grape skin, dried hammer-milled grape skins. It has a mixture of rice bran and also corn chops. Very effective. Deer can smell the scent of grapes from a long way, and it brings them in. I've used it in West Texas out with Larry Whitesoon, and we were out there where deer are not even exposed to grapes, and they came right in. Also, VINEYARDMAX has a very good line of game and fish feeders. Check them out online, vineyardmax.net. Friends, I want to tell you about an awesome camping destination, Wind Point Park on Lake Tawakoni. It's over on the far east side, kind of the northeast side of the lake. It's a pristine park. You can go there and view, I think they estimated a couple of hundred deer on that couple of hundred acres there. Cabins, beautiful RV park, fishing piers, docks. It's got everything you'd want in an outdoor destination. Check them out online at windpointparktx.com. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, what do you say? We talk some thermal scope, some outdoor nighttime hunting with Mr. Jason Robertson. Now, I don't know anybody that knows more about this stuff. I hunt with thermal, AGM Global Vision thermal scopes a lot, but I am certainly not an expert. I go to Jason when I need to know something. You'll know Jason Robertson, Outdoor Legacy, the late night vision show. He and his partner Hans that they put on every week. But let's talk some thermal. Jason, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Absolutely glad to be back, Luke. I know we hadn't gotten together in a while, and it's my fault, not yours. You've reached out to me multiple times and said, hey, you got time to record? But, man, it's just a busy time of year. But we both found us a minute, so I figure we can talk about some thermals today.
You dang right we can. So AGM Global Vision, actually, you told me about this prior to us recording this radio show, but after, I think, in January, starting around the 1st of January, AGM Global Vision, who makes the scopes, the thermals that I use, and the monoculars, the spotters, they have a awesome markdown in prices. People are always calling me and want to know, that know little about the thermal scopes. Well, I heard these things are extremely expensive, Luke. Well, not necessarily so. Tell us about what should the cutting edge stuff with AGM.
Sure. Well, I know that one thing that AGM has kind of prided themselves on, and we do. We sell AGM scopes at Outdoor Legacy. They're a great company. Their U.S. headquarters is here in Texas. Mm-hmm. So they're just good people to deal with. Anytime you ever needed anything from them, you would be calling somebody in Texas. And that's why we like dealing with them as well. But they've got scopes that range for everybody. And they've come out with some more new stuff here this year, some really high-end stuff. But, Luke, as you know, I think they've got the Rattler V2 TS19 and TS25 at 256 resolution scopes. And those units are about $795 and $995 a piece. So that's something really affordable for guys that don't need to do much shooting, over 100, 125 yards. But it's a lot of people want to take that next step, and they say, that's just not quite enough. I really want to shoot, a couple hundred yards if I need to, or, 150 or 75, whatever that is. And they really can't do that with those, $1,000 and less thermal scopes. But there's been kind of a barrier of entry for a lot of people because they might have to spend, $2,200, $2,500, $2,800. Well, AGM here at the first of the year, on January 1 had some big price drops on a lot of their stuff. And just to give you, I'm not going to read the whole big list, but to give you a couple examples, their Rattler V2 version 2, 25 384. So the 25-384, that's the higher resolution, 384 by 288. Absolutely has an identification range and shooting range out to at least 250 yards. That scope went from $2,100 down to $1,795. So they have now, for the first time ever, crossed the $2,000 mark going below with a 384 resolution scope. And if you don't know what that means, it just means you've got a clearer picture, a longer identification range, a longer shooting range. Even on their, if you need a little more magnification, their Rattler V235 384, that unit went from $2,495, so $2,500 down to $2,195. So those are some pretty good price drops down in this level that is, and I know it's still a lot of money, but it's a level that a lot of people feel like they can save up and get to without just going crazy and, you know, getting into the super high resolution stuff.
Jason, let me ask you, would you have thought that price for such a scope, say 3 years ago? Would you, I would never have dreamed.
No.
I know, and that's what you do is dealing in thermal, but I would never have dreamed that. I will say this. Yeah. I'd like to bring this up. Well, the 19256, the Rattler V219, I really like that battery on that thing. Runs for 8 hours. I mean, I'm paranoid about it because when I go out on an evening hog hunt, I may be running that thing a total of 2 hours max.
Sure.
But I've went out like 2 or 3 times, and I look at the battery, and it's still. So that scope, it now is what would this month? What could you buy one of the? Now that is the entry level, but I know a good bit about it.
So that scope, that the 19256 would be $795.
Yeah.
And there's an important point you made there about the batteries. So it is a fully removable, rechargeable battery, and like you said, you could get anywhere from 6 to 8 hours on it. And it's, again, rechargeable. But this is what's pretty crazy to me about those prices. AGM is giving you 2 of those batteries and a cradle charger for it. And a claim to fame that AGM has on all of their thermal scopes is that they include an American Defense Manufacturing quick detach mount. And American Defense is the premier mount manufacturer in the U.S. They're in Wisconsin, and they also make high-end, AR-style rifles. But they make these mounts that almost all of the manufacturers use, and that's a $200 mount. And AGM is putting it in there with even their $795 scope. So it's a really good value.
Jason, I am old school when it comes to scopes. I didn't know what a thermal scope was until 5 or 6 years ago. I knew what they were, but I never had real experience with them. So I'm of the old school. Don't touch that scope, but watch this, that, and the other. You can take the Rattler that I use, any of the, I've got several of the AGM scopes, about 3 different ones, some high-resolution ones, but I just like to focus on this one. And I was so hesitant on the Picatinny rail, of course. I was so hesitant. Right. Oh, just pull that off and use it as a spotter.
No.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not touching that thing. It's dead on, and I wouldn't do
That's
it.
Right.
But I've got a buddy that I hunt with a lot who's almost a gunsmith. He really is. He says, Luke, take it off and put it back on, and I'll show you that it's not moving. And he's got a range. He lives about a mile from me. Kenneth Shepard is his name. He said, just take it off, and we're going to use it tonight to spot with, and put it back on. And we went out in shooting the same group, So I learned something. I don't know if all of them will do that, but that American Defense one will.
The American Defense will, and I'll be honest with you, Luke. I'm old enough that when I was raised, you put a scope on a rifle, and it was until death do us part.
You dang right.
And they stayed there, and the idea of taking that off. I mean, I do. I've got rifles I inherited from my dad and granddad that have got scopes that have been married to that rifle since before I was born.
Yes.
But this is different, and this is highly precision machined mounts going on top of a Picatinny rail, and the way they work is if it's properly tensioned and done right, and you put it right back in the same little Picatinny slot you took it out of, they absolutely return to zero. It feels weird even to me, and I've been doing this going on 12 years in this industry, and it doesn't matter. When I take one off, I get this queasy feeling, but it just works. It just flat out works.
It does. Jason, let me tell you and my friends, now I do have some of the high-end scopes, I do, and I've got them on a little 223 that I use, a little Mossberg patrol rifle. I'm still shooting. Most of the hogs I shoot are within 100 yards, even with the center fire. They just are. But I have had so much fun. Picture this. Seneca Dragon Claw is a 50 caliber air rifle that pressures up to 3,000 PSI. Okay, well, I've hunted. I'm actually hunting editor for an airgun magazine, national magazine called Airgun Hobbyist. So I'm no airgun expert, but I've hunted with a lot of them. So what, for me, that's so much fun is to get out at night and spot the hogs. And hogs, if you're downwind of them, I've done this. I've hunted hogs for many years, but if you can get downwind, they're not the most difficult animal to sneak up on, especially at night.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
At
That's
night.
right.
So I slip in there. Now, that Dragon Claw probably at 60, 70 yards with a perfect shot would down one, but I want to make sure that I drop that hog. And so what I do is sneak in there within, I've got a bipod actually with me, and I sneak in there within at least 50, sometimes even closer if the wind's real strong and it's covering up some sound, I'll sneak in there within 30 yards, but I'll wait till that rascal sideways, and I'll put that crosshair right behind his jaw in the middle of his neck, and he does not run. It just, to me, that is just, people say, why don't you use your center fire and shoot them? That's fine and dandy with, ARs and all that, running hogs at 200 yards, if that's what you like. But to me, that puts the hunt back in this. And I've had a ball doing that, Jason, I'll tell you.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys that have gotten into the air rifles. We've got a lot of our customers calling us looking for thermals for that reason. And some of it's, they're shooting hogs, they're shooting coons off feeders, they're shooting rats out of barns, pigeons. I mean, we've had a lot of guys that use those air rifles for a lot of different stuff. They've come a long ways from the days when I was a kid with the little Daisy BB gun. It's not exactly the same thing anymore.
It's a learning curve that a lot of people have had to overcome. Now you pressure them up with a compressor, and some of these things compress up to 4,500 psi. I've shot those and written about them, but no, the Seneca Dragon Claw, they sell for about $800, to be honest with you, and but you couple those with one of those Rattler V2 256 that cost you $800, and you can have some fun. Jason, I send everybody that contacts me. Maybe sometimes they'll even tell you. I send them to Outdoor Legacy, and I tell them this. I say, look, I don't know if you'll catch Jason Robertson on the phone, but the ladies in his office know almost maybe as much as he does about they are quite capable of helping you, and that's what I tell the people. So
we've got two other guys. We've got Hans, who's my partner on the Late Night Vision Show podcast. Got another salesman named Garrett, and we're happy. Any of us guys are around and be happy to talk to people about thermal scopes, help them pick something out before they make that purchase from us. It's what we do for our customers. And those ladies that you mentioned, I know Michaela, she's been on your show before. The ladies in our office are fantastic. They help with any kind of customer service. And,
they're good.
Order questions, and they're great. But if y'all have got questions, we'd love to have your business. You can call us at 877-350-1818, or you can just go to the website at outdoorlegacy.com.
Jason, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us, and here in a few weeks we'll talk some more thermal. How about that?
Sounds good. Thanks for having us, Luke.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34-millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is level because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Friends, this segment is made possible by Platinum Cadillac and Chevrolet in Terrell, Texas. Stop by and visit with my buddy, Mr. Justin Rudd, and his team of experts, and let them put you in a new Chevy pickup or a Cadillac or whatever you might be in the market for. Also, the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma. Check them out at ChoctawHuntingLodge.com. Also made possible by Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, it is obviously the dead of winter, and people that catfish, especially for blue catfish, know that this is trophy time. Let's go down to Lake Tawakoni. My good buddy Tony Pennybaker's been guiding down there a long time for catfish and fishing there for many, many, many years. Tony, thank you for being with us, buddy.
Good morning, Luke, and thank you.
Yes, sir. Well, here a couple of weeks ago, we had our first real blast of Arctic air earlier in the month, about the first week of the month here, something like that. And I think people that are tuned in to catching blue catfish in the winter know that a shad kill, which there's so many zillions of shad in Lake Tawakoni where you guide that, if a fraction of them is still a whole bunch of dead shad. But those blue catfish during those periods of any kind of a die-off, they gorge themselves. And the interesting thing to me is the fact that here in the dead of winter, you were telling me that, a lot of diehard people think you need to be drifting deep water with, fresh shad to catch the big ones. And they do. You can do that. But you're also probably, I think you're favoring the more shallow water and actually having just as good or better luck in fishing shallow water. Is that right?
Well, I am. I've, done both kinds of trips, and it's about the same. I mean, really, the shallow water produces a bunch of good eaters, and you will get some out in the deep, too, but you're fishing with larger baits and stuff out there generally. You will catch some eater fish, but not like you do in the shallows.
Yeah.
But you also get, every day down there, we'll get those bigger fish,
Yeah.
And some of them are just as big as the ones we're catching out in the deeper water.
Yep. Well,
and the fight is tenfold over.
It is. It is for a fact. Shallow water, when you catch one in 3 to 8 foot of water, yeah. So let's look at the two different patterns, Tony. Now, say you're fishing shallow water. And by shallow, or am I pretty close to say 2 foot to 10 foot deep, something like that?
Yeah. Now, normally I don't go. Of course, my depth finder's 1.5 feet under my boat. So when I'm reading 2, it's really 3.5.
Yeah.
And so when I get down to where it's blinking, that's pretty much dragging the transducer in the mud. But heck, a lot of times that's where we'll be catching.
Yeah.
It's strange. You think you'd see them swimming around. Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you don't.
Right. So the pattern for the shallow water. Now, are you going to be like spot lock or are your power poles down or?
I have power poles on my boat,
that's right.
you know. So
Yep.
I will spot lock some out when it's too deep.
Yep.
For the power pole, you know, when I mark some good fish, and I will do that sometimes.
Yeah, but the difference in the deep, when I'm talking about deep water trophy blue catfishing, you know, I'm referring to out there 20-foot, those deep humps and places like that you key on. But so that's a lot of that is drifting. You'll use the wind, folks. I talk like I know what I'm talking about, but I fish with Tony and David Hanson and these guys so much. I kind of know the drill, Tony. But if you're out in that open water, you'll be using a drift sock if it's a lot of wind. But it's drift fishing more or less. But
trolling, I call it controlled drifting.
That's what it is.
Using your trolling motor to stay on course.
Right. Yep. But the other type, the shallow water, the boat's going to be in position, isn't it? It's going to be stationary.
I'll go in there and find some structure or something that I like and mark some fish in it.
Yep.
You know, and anchor down and fish, and I'll fish medium-sized baits. I don't normally fish the real big ones down in there because, I mean, you can catch the big fish on the average size bait as well as big ones, but the other ones can bite that other bait. And
right.
When I go shallows, when folks say, no, we would like to catch both.
Yep.
You know, and sometimes I'll have a spot in between. I'm pretty sure we could troll in deeper water and catch one, and I'll have a few baits ready for that, and I'll do that for about an hour or so, and then I'll head down in the shallows when the sun gets up in there a little, and you get both things there in one trip.
Best of two, get the chance for the big. Of course, you know, we always talk about the trophy fish at Tawakoni, but anytime you've got the key, if you got a rod and reel that'll hold one in some good stout line and a strong hook and some fresh, bloody, oily bait, I mean, you can catch a big one down there anytime. I think the reason a lot of people don't catch big catfish, I know this is true, they're really not geared up for them, are they? You know.
No, they're not fishing for them.
Right.
I mean, that's what I say all the time because everybody's like, well, we're going to wait till February and book one of those big cat trips. And I said, why?
Yeah.
There's about a half to 50% chance you won't even get to do it. Weather will knock us out, you know.
Weather-wise, yeah.
We can catch them right now. Just come on, you know.
Exactly.
Just about any time, and about the only time you can't is if you don't go out there and fish for them.
That's exactly true. That's true. You know,
but you was talking about that earlier cold spell. I expect there's probably some shad died on that.
Yep.
That water temperature adjusted about 10 degrees real quick or more. And I wasn't fishing deep. I was only fishing about 30 foot. And you know, the water's about 54 degrees. And that's one particular day here about a week ago, every fish we pulled in the boat, we had to burp.
And explain that to everybody.
Well, it's in their stomach because they don't have an air bladder. They don't have a bladder like some of those fish that you have to punch a hole in. You know, the air is in their stomach. And I've never been able to figure out exactly what causes it. Sometimes you pull them up from real 50-foot water, and they're that way. But I mean, usually in about 30, you don't have much trouble with it. But it may be because that some shad died, and they were eating some dead shad and fermenting and make a lot of gas in their bellies.
It could be.
You know, we lay them in the floor, and especially those up around 30 pounds or so, and their belly be so tight, you think it's going to pop.
Air pressure.
And in a minute, they burp, you know, and one or two of them I had to use the tube on.
You know, Tony, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I always learn something talking to you that's one of the fun things about what I've done for the last 40 years is deal with people that know a whole lot about what they do. You brought up the last time that we were talking on the air here the fact that I fished for under cormorant roost quite a few times in my life, not near as much as you have, but I've done it. And I've always thought that the droppings from the birds is what those fish were keying on, and maybe it does trigger them when they hear it hit the water, the droppings from the cormorants that are roosting in a tree. But you said every one of those catfish that you've ever caught was full of the green, I call it algae, but whatever that grows on those submerged tree trunks,
Said that vegetation.
Vegetation, yeah. And that was something that I never thought of. And I remember when you told me that, I thought, whoa, now wait a minute. What's Tony talking about here? Then the more I thought about it, the fact that you've seen it. And you think about the bird droppings, I mean, it disperses pretty quick. It dissolves.
It's mostly water.
That's what I'm saying,
because the bird does both actions through the same spot. So it's mostly water.
I know it. I know.
So they might scoop some up, but the smaller fish will have all algae in them.
Uh-huh.
When you're out there this time of year and you be catching some of them 40, 50 pounders on them trees, they're going to be full of them other little fish that come after
the algae.
And those little minnows and stuff may be gathering up more of the small particulates in the bird droppings,
Yep.
But I mean, those big fish, they know what's going on out there. They're going to be out there eating the smaller fish. It ain't much different than when you're fishing daggum buffalo spawn.
Yes.
The big fish ain't eating the buffalo eggs either.
Right.
They're up there eating the fish that are trying to eat buffalo eggs.
That's a fact, Tony. You think of a blue catfish. He's a very proficient predator. He is. They have to be. But you just think about another, say for instance, a cow, Well, okay, they learn to hunt around areas where hogs are being killed, I mean, they adapt to whatever it takes to let them survive. Well, a blue catfish is the same way, or a bobcat. He's gonna hunt around corn feeders where the corn's on the ground and the birds and the rabbits are there. So the blue catfish really is I know for a fact they are an efficient predator, especially the big ones, and that's how they survive, isn't it?
Yeah, this here probably make a fairly larger shad kill.
Mm-hmm.
But there'll be some, because there's several days of it. The old water temperature was around 54 degrees when I come off the lake day before yesterday. But this will drop it. This should drop it 10 degrees, I would think.
Well, the drop that
down
we
in
had
under mid 40s, especially if we get some cold precipitation during the end of the week, like you're talking about.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, early in January when we had that first cold spell that really dropped the temperature, and then we'll see what happens with it. Keep our eyes on it. But Tony, man, thanks for the Lake Tawakoni catfish update, man. Bottom line is a bait that's oily, like shad is the best, fresh. If you can't get shad, get you some rough fish, carp, buffalo. Cut it into strips. Yeah. That'll also catch them on it,
Oh, yeah. Buffalo. I've been catching some pretty big ones on perch here lately.
On perch. And then...
kind of runs in, I don't know how they change their taste, but sometimes I catch them on drum, and sometimes they won't bite that.
Yep.
Sometimes they'll hit perch, and sometimes they just hit those big old gizzard shad.
They're picky sometimes.
Here lately, I've just been using intermediate size baits and catching pretty much everything that I run across, And,
Yep.
You got your slow days and your better days. But,
Tony, give me your phone number, buddy. I'm being told we're about out of time for our segment, but people want to come down to Tawakoni and catch some catfish. Of course, you make the Tony P's punch bait, which is a heck of a good bait. But if they want to...
Got plenty on hand.
Okay, how do they contact you, buddy?
Call me at 903-474-3078.
For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, CVA.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use, you can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas, and VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, we have a little time left in our show for me to share a couple of Dutch kettle recipes with you. I've done this in the past, but I just recently got back from a late-season deer hunt with Larry Weissoon. My friend, also Rick Lambert, Miranda's dad, was with us, a great friend. The Cottons, David and Edgar down there in Kaufman County. We were hunting on Edgar's land, and I decided I would make a cobbler. Dutch kettle cobbler, which is kind of one of the signature recipes, if you will, that I make them all different ways. But I wanted to do this one quick and easy and tasty. And this is the recipe I want to give you. Anybody can do it. There's no magic to it. I use a number 10 Dutch oven. It's got the recessed lid. To me, a Dutch oven without a recessed lid is not very helpful. You need that recessed lid to put your coals on the top, so it'll cook, the heat will go down, and then you have your coals underneath it. I use the one, this little Dutch kettle has the legs. It suspends it up off the ground for an inch or so, something like that. But melt your stick of butter, get a box of the cheapest yellow cake mix you can get, and you need 3 of the cans of peaches, depending on how much you want to make. This will feed about 8 people. So 3 of the larger, not gallon cans, but those larger cans of peaches, and make sure and drain all the juice off. I used to not do that when I first started making this years ago, but drain all the juice off your peaches, because the peaches themselves have plenty of moisture in them. Basically, melt your butter, dump your 3 cans of peaches, drained peaches down in there. I like to add quite a bit of cinnamon. Sometimes I'll put cinnamon sugar, but cinnamon on the peaches, and then basically, your job is almost done at this point. Stir all that around, incorporate your butter in there with the peaches, and I usually add, on that number 10 Dutch kettle, I'll add about a cup and a half of sugar, and then stir all that in there, and then basically dump your dry cake mix. I don't mix it with eggs or anything like that. Kind of level it out on top, and then put some butter, probably half a stick of butter cubed up in little pieces on top of the yellow cake mix. It's dry, of course, at this point. The number 10 Dutch kettle, I'll use about 12 or so if I'm using charcoal, which I usually don't use charcoal. I usually use embers from a campfire, but to keep it simple, that number 10 Dutch kettle, use about 11 or 12 briquettes underneath it. Now, how many to use is relative to the ambient air temperature. There's a lot of factors when you're cooking with a Dutch kettle. But say, just for a good rule of thumb, if in the wintertime, I'll put about 10 briquettes underneath it, give or take. You know, it's not an exact science. But if it's cold outside, I'll put about 10 underneath, around the outside perimeter, not right in the middle. And then I'll put about 13 or so, maybe 15 on top. Now, in the summertime, I'll reduce that down a little bit because you don't need that much heat. If you're using embers from the campfire, coals, if you will, we'll just kind of judge it there, put them around the perimeter underneath the pot, and then scatter them out evenly on top of the pot. So basically, you've got that butter on top of your cake mix. Let it go. It's going to take you about 40 minutes. But after about 30 minutes, pull the lid. You don't want your cake, your topping to scorch, but rotate your pot around, your Dutch kettle. I like to rotate the lid 180 degrees one way and then pick the pot up and turn it 180 the other way. That kind of helps distribute the coals, the heat from the coals, if you will. So about 40 minutes, you will have some of the best cobbler you ever ate in your life, I promise you. Now, another way to do it is use the cake pie dough is what I'm trying to say. Use the pie dough, put some on the bottom, and then put some on the top. You can even strip it, a little crosshatch strip on the top if you want to do that. But I'll tell you, the yellow cake mix is really, really good. Most people just go for that. And it'll give you enough cobbler with the peaches to feed quite a few people. So there's a good recipe for you. Make you some Dutch kettle cobbler. If you've never tried it, it's real simple. You can be a hero quick doing this. I guarantee you. Another one is I learned this one from my buddy Bob Hood. Bob was the outdoor editor for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram for 42 years, I believe it was. He passed away, I don't know, it's 7 or 8 years ago, I guess now. It's hard to remember back how long, but Bob and I hunted together a lot. And on a quail hunt, what we would do is try to shoot enough quail in the morning, if we were lucky, for a big lunch. For he and I, it'd be about 3 quail apiece would do that. Here's the way if you don't have quail in your freezer, which chances are if you're like me, you don't anymore. Occasionally I'll get some quail. Cornish hens work just as well. And they're readily available, Cornish hens, you know. So here's what you do. You know, defrost your frozen Cornish hens, salt them with a little, salt, and then put a little pepper, black pepper on them. Now, crush 2 big rolls of Ritz crackers. Crush and pulverize those. Ritz cracker meal is what's going to be the coating on these. Melt a stick of butter in your Dutch kettle. And I use a number 10 for this, too, because I never cook more than about 3 or 4 Cornish hens. But depending on the size of your Dutch kettle is how much butter. You might want to use a stick and a half. But a number 10, use a stick of butter. Melt that, and then dredge you don't want it sizzling hot, but just melted butter. And then dredge your Cornish hens or quail in that. And then dust them, coat them with that Ritz cracker meal. Place them down in there in the bottom of your Dutch kettle, and then you'll have some extra cracker meal. Sprinkle that all over the top. It'll be like a dressing when it gets through cooking. Folks, this is some of the best bird that you've ever eaten. I'll tell you, it is really, really good. It's going to take you about 45 or 50 minutes, but like always on your Dutch kettle cooking, after about 30 minutes, pull that lid and see how it's cooking. But as a rule, 45 minutes will get those birds, fall off the bone tender. And then when you serve it, put that one Cornish hen will feed most anyone. Set that down and then scoop some of that cracker meal. That's actually kind of cooked, toasted cracker meal with that butter. One thing I forgot to tell you is when you put those birds in there and get all that cracker meal, black pepper is your friend on this dish, I promise you. Sprinkle a good bit of black pepper on top of everything, and then let the butter and the heat do its magic. Folks, I hope you get a chance to get out. Outdoor cooking is definitely not just a summertime thing. Matter of fact, I enjoy doing the Dutch kettle cooking in the winter probably more because it's just cooler and more pleasant outside. I want to invite you March the 1st. Mark your calendar. In Greenville, Texas, for those of you listening away from North Texas, Greenville is about an hour east of Dallas, right on Interstate 30. The Top Rail Cowboy Church, we're going to have the 6th annual Outdoor Rendezvous. It's called the Luke Clayton's Outdoor Rendezvous. Me and some guys got it started 6 years ago, and it's continuing on. We'll have campfires. We'll be doing Dutch kettle cooking. The Lone Star Dutch Kettle Society's all out there. They were out there last year. I hope they get back this year. Music all day, vendors. If you have anything you want to market, it doesn't have to be outdoor stuff, but a lot of outdoor people, guides and products and things like that show up. But we're going to have campfire cooking going on. I'll be making some stuff out there on the campfire, and those pros with the Dutch Kettle Society are really going to do some cooking. So to learn more about it, it is March the 1st from 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. Just go online to Top Rail Cowboy Church, Greenville, Texas. Charlie Nasser is the pastor out there, and he'll all you need to do is just tell him you're coming if you want a booth space, and maybe give a little donation to the church or whatever, but there's no set fee for the booths. It's just an outdoor venue. I've enjoyed being with all of you folks. Try to stay warm the next few weeks. We're in our little cold period here in Texas where I live. And join me right back here next week. We'll have a lot more fun talking hunting and fishing. Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time too. And folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.